In today's video, we'll examine the tale of two recently qualified divers who put their lives in danger by disobeying fundamental diving safety guidelines. These two diving partners explored a cave in Royal Springs Park in Florida after receiving open water diving training. In Suwannee County, Florida, there are several springs, sinkholes, and underwater caverns. Among these is the incredibly intriguing Royal Springs Park. It is a popular spring in Suwannee County and throughout Florida for swimmers, scuba divers, and everyone who enjoys being outside. The park occupies a 5-acre plot of land. This springs basin creates a large pool that is roughly 160 feet by 105 feet in size. Although the impacts of rainfall and aquifer levels can cause variations in its depth, it is typically 42 feet deep. About 25 feet of high walls surround the Royal Spring Basin. The natural splendor of the forest that envelops Royal Springs Park and the river corridor that connects it to the Suwannee River are additional noteworthy aspects of the park. If you take all necessary safety precautions, your visit to Royal Springs Park is guaranteed to be an unforgettable experience. Let's now examine the tale of two recently qualified divers who disregarded safety precautions. Mark Granger, then 19 years old, and his friend William Rydenor, then 34, went diving in Royal Springs on February 18, 2001. Together with their diving teacher, Christopher Whitlock, and his diving companion, they began diving into Royal Springs at 4:30 p.m. Both Mark and William were natives of Florida's Gainesville and Kingsland. While their instructor was retrieving a concrete anchor from the pool, their initial plan was to dive into the Springs pool for a quick exploration. Though this was only for open water diving and not cave diving, Mark and William had recently gotten their diving certifications. Open water diving is a type of dive where you can access the surface directly while plunging straight up with no obstructions overhead. Water is naturally visible due to the direct impact of sunlight, which eliminates the need for artificial lighting. Diving in open water is more recreational. Technical diving, on the other hand, includes cave diving. This type of diving necessitates diving inside a container. There are side and overhead obstacles. This means that simply diving up won't bring you to the surface. Some caverns require you to crawl and squeeze through narrow passageways. For cave diving, specialized gear and training are required. The instructor and his companion were in one team with the four divers, while Mark and William were in the other. Mark and William were certified open water divers, so they could dive in the pool. In just one dive, the teacher and his diving companion, who were initially going to search for the concrete anchor, were able to recover it from the pool. The teams then took their torches and prepared to explore the Royal Springs blooming pool. They all dove into the water at once. The instructor's diving buddy unfortunately struggled to equalize. The instructor had to wait for help before they could resume diving. To equalize during diving simply means to equalize the pressure within your ears and the surrounding water. Human ears are not inherently attuned to an underwater environment, hence equalization is required. As a result, Mark and William were not in the pool when the teacher and his diving partner dove in. After spotting a cave inside the pool, Mark and William went inside. Not since they had only been trained in open water diving and not cave diving. They were in an area of complete darkness because they had no idea what to expect within the cave, as is frequently the case in many other caves. What could have made the cave's visibility worse? Silt out, a condition when the visibility of underwater caves is compromised or totally eliminated, was the reason for the zero visibility. This is the result of particles in the cave's bottom or on its wall surfaces being disturbed. The majority of the time, it is brought on by divers' fins being misused or pointed in the wrong direction, which disturbs the silt inside the cave. Additionally, it might be brought on by inhaled bubbles from diving equipment that disturb overhead surfaces and cause particles to fall off of those surfaces. To prevent making any of these errors, divers must use caution when diving, and one of the strategies taught during training is to grab hold of the instructions and follow them back to the surface when situations like these arise in an emergency. Due to this, amateur divers should avoid cave diving. They will probably run into these issues. It is advised that a diver depart the cave and not put his own life in danger if diminished visibility is noted before entering the cave. Now that the teacher and his diving buddy were inside the cave, they were unable to locate Mark and William. He began to search for them as he grew concerned. He discovered the cave's entrance while looking for them. He instructed his companion to wait outside the door while he entered. He dove into the cave for a short way but was unable to locate them. He then went back to the door. When he and his diving partner both came to the surface, He sent his partner to signal for aid while he hurried back to the cave's entrance. He was beating on the rocks and flashing his light within the silted cave, hoping that the two divers inside would hear him and find their way out. The rescue diver finally made it to the cave entrance after 45 minutes of waiting, hammering, and doing a lot of other things just to make sure they heard him and came out. When the search got underway, the rescue diver tied a rope and started searching the cavern zone despite having zero visibility at roughly 39 feet inside the cave. In order for Mark and William to use his reel to locate their way back to the cave's entrance, he knotted it and left it behind. Other rescue divers joined the search at around 6:30 p.m., 2 hours after Mark and Williams entered the ocean. 295 feet into the cave they looked. William and Mark were not to be found. The search crew left the cave to continue their search the following day. As safety concerns arose as time passed, the two missing divers may have entered a side tunnel, which is about 380 feet from the entrance, according to some evidence discovered the next day when they started their search. However, there is still a significant restriction on using side-mounted gear to access this tunnel. Despite this restriction, the rescue team went in. They located Mark's body at around 492 feet into this side tunnel. At around 531 feet into the cave, where they were still looking for the second diver, William was discovered lying dead at the end of a side passage. Their tanks were bare. What a tragic day it was at the Royal Springs. 2 divers perished. The search effort has changed from a rescue to a recovery effort. The 2 bodies were taken to the surface by the team. Mark and William died as a result of breaking the fundamental diving safety regulations. In the diving community, this was not a novel concept. Divers often had a tendency to be bold, disobeying straightforward directions at their peril. Therefore, there are 5 fundamental safety guidelines for cave diving that no diver who is concerned about his safety and is not engaged in a life-threatening adventure should take for granted. First and foremost, every diver entering a cave needs to have received training in cave diving and have the mental fortitude to face and overcome any challenges. Without prior training, it is not expected of an open-water diver to go cave diving. A diver must also transport all the gear required for the adventure he is undertaking. Most significantly, though, he needs to bring 3 lights on his diving expedition. His main light and his 2 supporting lights at worst. He might not have access to any of the 3. He must own a minimum of 2 lights. Third, a diver needs to be continuously connected to the surface. When leaving the cave, guidelines are utilized to find your way back to the entrance. Some caves have intricate networks, making getting lost the only sure route out if there is no map. Therefore, the safety precaution in this kind of circumstance will be a recommendation. Fourth, when organizing your dive, keep your dive depth within the range that is appropriate for the gas you will be breathing. When using nitrox or oxygen-only gas, don't dive deeper than what will be necessary for trimix. This could also be risky. Finally, a diver must follow the rule of thirds when managing their gas. Start bringing your second third of air down to the surface once you have used up 1/3 of your available gas. Only emergencies should use the final third of the air. The likelihood of accidents and fatalities would be decreased if all divers followed these 5 fundamental safety guidelines. Let's all raise the flag for following the fundamental diving safety guidelines in the diving community. If Mark and William had not disobeyed these fundamental diving safety guidelines, they would have peacefully returned to the surface. They only had open water diving training, but they decided to go on a cave diving excursion instead, which was completely against their diving schedule. Rule infractions led to the incident, which was its cause. They did not run any lines into the cave from the surface of the water, which may have helped them return to the entrance. Additionally, they lacked sufficient air reserves for emergencies. They made the mistake of each having just 1 flashlight, which was inadequate. Each was required to have a primary light and a secondary light at a minimum. We appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If you like what you saw, click the bell icon, like, and subscribe buttons to be notified when we post another thrilling cave diving story.